Up to. All right, we can hear me. And I'm on, and I'm already 1:36 into my 25 minutes, so let's get moving. So, you're so mean. Why are you so mean? Oh, God. Hey, I'm Ward. Be nice to me. I make a product called Breeze, which is an open source software that helps you build single-page apps. Works great with Angular, works great with MEAN. How about that? And I also, my company helps you build them. So, what is MEAN? We're going to race through what it is just enough to get through it, give you an idea of it, get you oriented, then we'll take a look at some MEAN code, and then we'll come back and say, what's wrong with this? All right, that's my agenda. Hope we can get through it. So, yes. So, hey, it's JavaScript front to back. So what is the MEAN stack? What does it stand for? The M is for Mongo, which is a document database. We'll figure out what that is. Express is a web application framework that's sitting up there. That's talking to your client. Angular, well, it's an Angular conference. Enough. All right. And Node is the runtime environment that sits under the server stuff that I was talking about, the Mongo and Express. And it also happens to be a tool that you use client-side for development. So, why do people like MEAN? Well, I know why we like MEAN, because it's really nice to us, all right? And hey, who's better than us? So what makes it nice for us? Well, if we're front-end developers, it's great to have one language to work in, because now we can get those server guys out of the way and do it ourselves. Who needs them? One language, front to back, kind of cool. Hey, it's real easy to get started in this world of JavaScript. There's all this tooling, there's help and all that jazz. And it's actually, when you got one stack going front to back and you don't have any of that nasty static typing and stuff like that, and you can just do anything you want to JavaScript and do anything you want to the DOM, well, it could be easy to maintain, or it could be a pain in the ass to maintain, but I'm going to maintain that it's easy to maintain. How's that for use of maintain? 6 times in one sentence. It's easy to tool, lots of great tooling that just keeps coming and coming and coming around this, which is an opportunity for us to develop more efficiently. And there's this terrific community of people just like you out there who are willing to help each other get good at this, and actually that's one of the things we really like about Angular. So, it's not just good for us, because we don't write the checks, it's good for production as well. So what do I mean? Well, one thing is that it's designed to scale. So it's not just a toy that we all get to use. It's actually, scalability is kind of architected into the very idea, partly because it's all asynchronous, as we'll see. But anyway, I'm just going to claim that. Hey, you know what? It's not just a toy. You actually deploy what you build, all right? So your boss probably is happy that when you're sort of screwing around in the office, you might actually be able to deploy it. There are lots of large commercial deployments that have proven the stack out. All right, lots of people using all 4 of the pieces, and it has a lot of big names behind it. So it's not just something I dreamed up in the garage. Okay, so what are we going to do? Are we going to talk in MEAN order? No, we're not. We're going to flip it around because I assume you already know Angular, and I'm not even going to talk about it much. So I'm just going to focus on Node, and then Express, and then we'll talk about MongoDB. Hope you know what Angular is. All right, Node, JavaScript. Huh? What the? Well, wrong audience for that, because we're all JavaScript people. So what is it? It's a runtime on this, which can actually, it was originally designed for the server, but it just turns out to be great for client-side tooling as well. A couple of things to know. A lot of people will tell you it's no good, it can't possibly perform because it's JavaScript. No, you and I write in JavaScript, it's written in something else, all right? So it's not written in JavaScript, it just is, that's what we program in. It supports ECMAScript 5, so you don't have to worry about IE 6 when you're writing in Node, which is kind of nice. I don't know why TypeScript compiles to ES3, but we don't have to worry about it there. And the most recent releases of Node support ECMAScript 6, the new stuff. So that's kind of cool. If you can upgrade to that, you can start using some neat features like generators. There is no DOM to worry about. You do not have to worry about whether your code runs on any of these browsers because there isn't one. It's DOM-less, so you don't need any shims. And being JavaScript, there's a single event loop, so you don't have any threads. And if you don't have any threads, well, you don't have to worry about the concurrency issues that plague everybody who's worried about mutable data structures and threads. So that's kind of nice. Node is built with modularity in mind. So you kind of build up your application by sort of requiring stuff. And you guys know this already, so I'm going to blast through it. The key is that Node comes with a few core modules to help it act like a kind of operating system, all right? You know, so you can write to the console and you can encrypt stuff and reach the file system and jazz like that. But doesn't really have a whole lot. So what you do is you start loading packages in with npm, and you probably know that. So I'm moving along. And yeah, you got it. Just the basics. Now, you could write a complete server in Node yourself, and normally I show how to do it. Well, it's a pretty simple and it's not very good. But, you know, you could do it. Somebody's done it. In fact, that's what Express is. Express is your server. It's your web framework written in Node, written on top of Node, and it gives you what Node does not have, well, it's a self-a-Node module, but it gives you all this stuff that you would probably need if you were making a real server, okay? And much more. But it's not really Express that's doing all of this. All right, Express is it's almost like a structure of the way things work because it's really what it is a stack of middleware, and you just go out there and you load up modules, Node modules that comply with this vision of a stack, a middleware stack. So how does that work? Well, the typical piece of middleware is a function, and just like this, it takes a request object, the response object, and then a what do you want to do next function. All right? And you write stuff like that. So you could like examine the request, you could respond to the client by sending something back, or you could do nothing at all and simply call the next piece of middleware down the chain. So how might that look? Well, typical middleware flow, you know, the client makes some kind of API request, and it runs into our first piece of middleware. And that piece of middleware does something. In this case, we're just going to log whatever it was, and hey, we're calling next because we're done. So it falls through to the next piece. And here we have a static file handler. Hey, does this request for some static file? If it is, send it to the client, we're done. Oh, no, it's not. So let it flow on through to the next piece of middleware. And maybe it's an API handler that's going to get us some data. And if it is, and it matches up something we know about, hey, we'll send that to the client. But if not, we let it flow through. And then at the bottom, you have some kind of catch-all that says, oh, man, couldn't do anything with that. May as well tell the client, you know, 404. All right, so just chain. That's how it works. Mongo. Some of you may get that reference. That's Alex Karras in Blazing Saddles. It's a document database. So let's just, I mean, it's a database, right? You guys are probably, you either know what Mongo is, in which case you can go to sleep, or you're kind of saying, well, I've done relational databases. How does it line up? So the collection, it has a notion of a collection, which is kind of like a table, kind of like. And it's got a thing called a document. And that's kind of like a row in a table because there are collections that have documents. But you can do stuff you can't do in relational, like have nested documents. Like this thing, which is kind of an awful looking thing, but you can kind of get the idea. It's a tree structure, right? It actually represents an order, and inside, an order for pizza. And inside that, there are the toppings that you put on it. Or actually, no, it's an order, and then there are pizzas and salads and drinks, and then within the pizzas, you could have pepperoni and, you know, and all that kind of stuff. So you have this like document that represents a pizza order, right? Now, that kind of nested structure is not something you would do in a relational database. Really, when you're looking at it, you're thinking about that document as if it represented something that you would like to I like to consume pizza too. But anyway, it's a document that you would like to consume on the client side. It's kind of shaped the way you think, like they just go boom, give me the order, and now I got everything I really need for whatever my client-side workflow is. So you design your API with that in mind. So I call that a view. All right? And now one of the things that's true about Mongo, like many document databases, NoSQL databases, is that there are no joins. There's no notion of a relationship between any things. So like you figure out what's in that one big payload and you got it. But you can't relate anything that's in there to anything else. Like if I want to know what the customer is for that order, I'm going to have to do something. Which may be why then the order I probably denormalize and put the company name in there so I don't have to run and get the company, stuff like that. But I'm going to have to make some extra trip to the database if I want to get some related information because, and I can't do it with a join, I have to do it with some other kind of operation. So there are no joins. But it's fast that way because it doesn't have to support relationships. And there are no transactions. Actually, the unit of atomicity is the document. Guaranteed that all pieces of the document either make it or don't, but if you send up 2 documents, oh well, one might make it, one might not. Oh, if I send up an order document and a customer document and I can't have an order without a customer, uh-oh, right? I mean, there's a risk that they won't both make it. So you have to think about that. But by not having any transactions, I can really scale this thing because I don't have to worry about locking up servers all over the world. Don't have to worry about it, right? So I get fast and I get scalable. So now that we've had the round trip of the MEAN stack, I do want to say that you can build, nifty Angular apps, and I'm going to show you about pizza. I'm going to show you a pizza order one called za at the end. I hope I sneak it in. 13 minutes. Whew, I got to move. So that's way too complicated. How about we do this? Because everybody writes a to-do app. I mean, that's the universal app. The one I'm going to look at is actually, I could have done this like I usually do with regular Angular 1 and JavaScript and all that, but no. I want to bleed. I want to bleed for you. So I did this one with the Angular 2 to-do app by David East, and I decided to do it in TypeScript, and I decided to do the back end in TypeScript as well. Wish me luck. So actually, this is something that you can actually see the video about it. This is the ongoing demonstration of Angular 2. They're keeping it up. And so there's a nice little video about it. You can download the code. It's written to go with Firebase, which is like, okay, we only have to worry about the client side. We'll just talk to Firebase, and somebody over in Firebase will keep a data server for me and all that stuff. But that's not good enough for us. We want to take that Firebase out of here and do our own Node and Mongo and Express behind it. So what I did was by the way, here's the running database. And it has all of the basics of life right there. And I'm hoping for some whiskey a little bit later. So anyway, it's going to do that. And yes, I can add some, I can eat some ice cream too, right? So that's good. Now I'm really getting healthy. Let's, though, see what's involved in this code. So here it is. I forked it. Well, actually, what do you mean, here it is? Here's the code. Let's dive right into the, behind the view model. This is the view model that supports the HTML. I call it a view model. Bear with me, all right? The controller, whatever. The component. And so what I did is I commented out the Angular Firebase stuff, and I started with a I started to replace it with a service. Now, by the way, I didn't actually make a whole lot of changes here. So I'm going to show you everything I whacked, all right? I whacked that import because I'm going to import something else. I don't need any of the Angular Fire or Firebase stuff. I took their constructor out, which, their thing produces a to-do service, which is a Firebase thing. I said, nah, we're going to use my service. All right, so I whacked the constructor, and that is almost the only other change I made. I made one other change, which is that in Firebase, the key property is called _key, and in Mongo, it's called _ID, so I changed that. That's it, all right? From component to view, no other changes. I just decided to yank their service out and create a to-do service of my own. Well, it takes a couple of leaps to get there. So I created a fake service first, all right? Which is a good way of doing it. Like, I don't actually have to talk to anything. I just fake it all. So I knew what it needed to do because I saw what the other one did, so I can get all to-dos. Hey, how about that, fake data? And by the way, I can switch back and forth, and when you download this code yourself, you can play with the fake and then move on. The basic operations are I got to get some to-dos, and yeah, I'm going to use promises because it should work that way. This is a service that the view model will consume, right? So the view model should wait for the promise to resolve after it gets the data, yada yada. So even the fake is structured that way. All right, and I can save and I can add, and of course you can see all I'm doing is pushing it in and out of in-memory lists. All right, but this gave me something that would work. And then I said, okay, we can fake it. Maybe I should leave it there, leave well enough alone, but no. I decided we have to go to Mongo. Actually, we have to go to Node. So this is TypeScript, right? This is TypeScript, and it's Angular 2. Woo! All right. So I figured out what a to-do is. I'm not going to explain all the time that to you, but I've got a to-do service that I'm exporting, and there's your constructor, blah, 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 and there's my actual get to-dos. Now, as of today, or as far as my knowledge goes, things are always moving, but I didn't think there was anything in Angular 2 yet, any component for talking AJAX, talking over the wire. So there is something that's sort of supposed to be out there, and there's a polyfill for it called window fetch, and that's what I used, and I hope it's the right thing, and I'm hoping the Angular guys will tell me I didn't screw this up. But it doesn't matter because it works. All right, so here it is. This is supposedly a possible coming standard, and there is a polyfill for it, so it works. And it's doing the hard work of making calls over the wire. So, I say get API to-dos, yada, yada. You get back, this thing's a little weird because you get the response back, but it doesn't actually have the data in it. You got to say, no, give me the JSON of that. So it's another turn of the event loop. And finally, you get it. And then I just say what the names are, blah, 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 blah. By the way, if I come over here and we look, you can see, all right, got to-dos, blah, blah, blah. All right, down here. And I'm not going to worry about that curiosity. Okay, so we're back. So now I got my save. Oh, look, all the hard work I have to do. Somebody better come along, right, and make this a little bit easier for us. But they've done it before, and they'll do it again. There'll be something, like $HTTP, or God forbid, you might want to use Breeze on the client. So, man, this is a lot of work for a to-do, don't you think? I mean, this is just to-dos. What happens when we have a really rich object model? I leave that for you to ponder at another time. Meanwhile, we are done on the client. We could be talking to anything. We're just talking server here. So let's, no, we're not going there. Let's take a look at what the server might look like. Now, actually, I should probably show you the structure of this. So I've got all the server stuff in server. Oh, how about that? A folder dedicated to that. Now, ignore all the JS and the map thing because that's after compilation. It's really only the TS's. So I've got I've only actually got 3 things. So I've got a server, which is my Express server. Then I have a sub-Express server called routes. And then I have something that's going to talk to Mongo. So let's take a look at these things, okay? We'll start with the server because I told you about the Express. Lo and behold, we import all those little modules that I might need. There are a gazillion modules. You got to figure out what you need. I pick some that I don't even know what the heck they do, but I've always seen them there. So what the heck? Throw it into the pipeline. Isn't that what everybody does? I don't know what that thing does. Just chuck it in there. You are like, method override. Sounds good to me. Let's put it in there. But I did yank out the view engine because I am not going to I'm not going to use Jade or anything like that to generate any HTML views. So I don't know what that does. I don't know what that does. I don't know what that does. But I know what this does. All right, that, I want this to be the static file server. By the way, the original demo, they just fire up something and it just is a pure static server because they don't care. It's pure client side. But we are going to build a server that has both static files and serves data through an API. So this is like it intercepts the call in there to go get to-dos HTML, to-dos JavaScript, and it can get it. Those are static files. But if it doesn't, remember when I was showing you before, if it doesn't find it, it just says, hey, I guess I can't handle it. On to the next one. Router. Ooh, this looks good. If the request begins /API, good indication we're going to go for data. All right, so we're going to look at that in a second. That's the stuff I wrote in a second. And then if it's not any of those two things, it's all over, say something, handle the error, and tell the user about it. And then we start listening on port 3001. Okay. So, man, doesn't that look just like the PowerPoint? All right, you can do that. You can write that. You can chuck anything in there you want to, all right? Or remove the things that don't actually make sense. But the next thing I want to talk to you about, 4 minutes, is this router. All right? All that is kind of like a mini Express app. All right? So let's take a look at that guy. What did I call it? Root. TS. Woo. Hey. All right, of course I got to require something. That DB there, that is not actually a database. That's my module that's going to help me talk to Mongo. Because one of the things you do in these kinds of controller things is you try not to put any logic in here that has anything other to do than with how you talk to the client. No business logic in here. Its job is to go, say, hey, do some work for me, and when you give it back, I'll figure out what response code and how to negotiate and send it back. But this thing should be like tight, all right? And I think it's pretty tight, all right? If you say API/todos and some token, I'm going to get the token by ID, Anybody can read that. All right, get, post. That must be how I'm going to add a new to-do or update a to-do or delete a to-do. There are the methods. It's kind of resty. All right, don't shoot me. And if anybody goes /API anything else, then I want to give instead of giving a page, 404 page, I want to give a nice 404 JSON. So that's how that works. And really, they all work by like, hey, get all to-dos and give it a call back when it's all done. So I talk to the service and I say, hand it back. All right, and that's the way they work. All right, I think we can do that. All right, I think that's pretty simple. So really, stringing together these routes and things like that is pretty easy. So we have just learned about Node and 246. So let's take a quick look at, do we want to? I'm just going to tell you, what can I tell you? What can I tell you that you don't know? I'm going to tell you that I actually implemented it, yada, 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 and so that I'm talking to talking to Mongo. And talking to Mongo is kind of a variation of this. You go get the collection that you're interested in, and then you do some of the proprietary operations, like go find something, go update something, insert, blah, 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 blah. All right? And so that's what you do. Now, it's all very simple, but there's a lot of it. This is just for one object, so keep that in mind. And it's one object that's just incredibly simple. If we were to go look at the to-dos in Mongo, this is Mongo View, really, it's like, that's it. That's a lot of work to do a to-do. But you know what? It's pretty clear to me that all of us out here in the world are doing, we're building to-do apps and we're putting our back into it, right? So we gotta work hard, and I'm working hard just to get you your to-dos. But if I was looking at pizzas, then I would have something like this. All right, I would have multiple items in my collection. I would have these subdocuments. Maybe it's got these options in here, but I had to put the option ID here because I haven't really brought down everything that's in an option. There's a good chance that there's a product option, which if I view it, is like, has a lot more stuff, right? So I got to worry about how to handle this. And that's what ZA is about. But if I had this much to do writing all that code, I'd kill myself. All right? So that's why I use Breeze. Hint, hint. So check it out. All right, let's bring it back. In 56 seconds, I'm going to tell you what's possibly wrong with all this. All right, so. What? Wrong! We got an angry unicorn and an angry killer bunny. All right, what do you mean wrong? Okay, so there are some things to worry about in Mongo. Oh God, 37 seconds. Relational integrity, doesn't have it. All right, so if you change the you've denormalized and you've changed the customer name in one place and you've got it something else in someplace else, somebody's got to fix that. There's no transactions. Guess what? You've got to architect around that. We're used to thinking of having transactional integrity, right? At transactions. Well, you've got to rethink, re-architect. Not everybody can get around that horn. There's a big doc danger, which is that doc, when you're starting to think about it, oh my God, in order to have it all and not have joins, I guess I better throw the kitchen sink in there. Well, there's plenty of companies that have run out of room in their doc, or it's just too heavy. And you know what? I knew exactly what that doc should look like when I started this program, but 6 seconds to go. You know what? So, I got a lot more nasty things to say, but I'm just going to tell you that there are here's the mean stack. I want to tell you that it's great. I still like it, but I'm cautious, and there are alternatives. For example, there's a Sean stack. I just replaced the Mongo with SQL, and I got Sean. All right? And, you know, like I worry about some things in Express, too, right? You know, there's some things that's kind of old, and even the guy who wrote it refuses to write it anymore. He's done. He wanted to move on to ES6, so he had something called Koa, so we got the scan stack. I can replace that. But, you know, if you're doing Node, there's a lot of things that you got to do. You got to manage it. There's no threads, so you got to worry about overdoing it, job starvation. And it's great for these workloads, but what if you got other workloads? And what if you just don't trust JavaScript? Now, I know nobody in this room does, but there's lots of other people. Well, fortunately, Microsoft has an answer for you. It's the SAD stack. Yes, there's a new version of .NET coming. It's a C# version of Node. It's actually pretty cool. All right, and one of the nice things about the SAD stack is that it can be the MAD stack too, right? Yeah, I can mix that up. But it's possible that I should say, hey, don't get sad, don't get mad, just get mean. And thank you very much.